Hi, it's Cathy with City Farmhouse Studio. Today I want to give you a rundown of our Moondance cardigan. This cardigan is a great crochet pattern. It is made out of this True yarn by Line brand, which is out of bamboo, which gives a very nice silky drape. It is just wonderful for summer, spring, fall, those transitional months. Great crochet for a lightweight garment, which is hard to do with the crochet yarn. But for this yarn, it is the Line brand True yarn. It's 100% rayon from bamboo. It is a light category 3, 3.5 ounces, 241 yards, 220 meters. It is not my favorite to work with. However, the fabric you get from it makes all of my issues with it kind of disappear, and I am very much looking forward to making some other garments out of this yarn. This pattern is made out of 2 stitches. One is this basket weave. It is just front post and back post alternating, and then the other one is a combination of single crochets and chains, alternating rows as well. So we'll get into how you make that, each one of those, and then the increases for the sides on both the sleeve and the body of the panels, and also some decreases, but not many. We'll show you how to make buttonholes and how to create that. Very easy once you know what you're looking for and how it goes together. Okay, so I have my beginning chain. I have an odd number to just show the basis of the garment being worked. And at the beginning of the instructions, it says to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I have a note in the pattern that says any stitch turning chain that is above 1, so 2 crochet chains or above, counts as a stitch. So with this one, I have 3 turning chains. So that would be the base stitch plus the double crochet at the top. So after the double crochet in the 4th, you just double crochet in each of the stitches going to the end of the row. Okay, so there I have my foundation chain, and then a double crochet in each of the chains, and I begin my first double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. This turning chain creates a stitch. So from there, to create the pattern, I'm going to chain 2 and turn, and then you alternate starting with that 2nd stitch in, because this is your first stitch, that turning chain. I'm going to alternate between a front post double crochet, and all the difference of a double crochet and a front post double crochet is instead of working through the loops, you work through the post of the previous stitch, that long beginning wrap around that you did. The next stitch, the back post, and then you go back to the front, and the back, just back and forth to the end of the row. So again, you wrap your hook just like a normal double crochet, but instead of going into the top of the stitch, go around the post, and then you make your double crochet as normal. So that's the front post. It lies on front of the stitch fabric. The back post is the same. Wrap your hook, start from the back of the fabric and wrap around the stitch post and create your double crochet as normal. Okay, so I've gotten to the end of the 2nd row of creating my front post double crochets in the back post double crochets. Now to create the next row of the stitch pattern, this would be just for your gauge. You would again chain 2, that's your first stitch, so we ignore that one. Reading the stitch on the 2nd position of the previous row, you can see it lies behind this post. So I want to do the opposite, so it's behind, I want to do a front. Post double crochet, that one lies in front of that row. So I want to go behind. You can see this portion being in front of your post. So it's a behind on this row. So I want to make this stitch is the behind. So my new stitch, I want to do front. And then you know it should alternate, being front post, back post, front post, back post, on through the line. And no matter how many increases or decreases you do, that pattern that sets up, and this is one of my least favorite parts of the yarn, is how it splits. Usually I just have to undo it and redo that stitch. Sometimes I won't catch it on that row and I just have to make do with working it into a stitch, or I rip out, if it's over here, I would rip out the row I just started back, that previous row, and fix it and keep going. The other thing is working with this yarn, you get used to it as you work with it, and your gauge changes very, very easily. So those are my two least favorite things about this yarn. But as I was saying, with this pattern, no matter how many increases or decreases you make, you always have this pattern of front post, back post, front post, back post. So if I take off 2 stitches, so there's 1, there's 2, I know my next stitch is going to lay on the front side of that post. If I add, I'm going to start with this pattern, repeat, and carry it out like there were stitches below it, and just to where as I work it, it would fall in line with that stitch pattern that's already been created. Okay, I'm coming to the end of my row, and this is the turning chain of the previous row. So it doesn't have a front post or back post, but I know from my pattern repeat that I'm going to alternate. So the last stitch I did was a front post on my current row, so I'm just going to make a back post. Sometimes it would be a front post as you end, sometimes it's a back post. It doesn't have to end exactly on a back post. So we'd continue doing that to get our gauge swatch, just repeating the front post, back post, front post, back post. Now on your second row of your pattern, you actually are going to be increasing stitches. And this one says you'll be increasing by 2 stitches. So to do that, you will be chaining 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So again, there's your turning chain, that's 1 stitch, and then the double crochet that I just made is your second. So that's increasing by 2. Now you're going to continue your front post, back post pattern that you've already created. So this is kind of hard to see, so I'm just going to read further in. So that lies in front, that lies in back, this would lie in front. So I'm going to make a back post. This is, your stitches kind of lay wonky for a little bit until you get your fabric going on that row. And then you'll work your pattern all the way to the end of the row. All right, I'm coming to the end of my row, and I've had a split yarn there. I added 2 at the beginning, and now the row says to add 2 at the end. And what it says to do is do a foundation double crochet, so 2 of them. A foundation double crochet means you're going to chain one out off this base and create your double crochet. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap my yarn over my hook like I'm beginning a double crochet. Now every time I always have to talk what I'm doing. I pull a loop around that turning chain. That is like my chain that I have just created. Now I want to make my double crochet. So the first thing I would do after inserting into that turning chain, that first stitch, would be to pull up a loop and then pull through 2 and pull through 2. So it's that one little extra step, and it can get very confusing very fast if you don't kind of slow down and think about it. And that is my addition of 1. And then I want to do it again. I'm going to insert, wrap my hook, insert into that bottom loop I had created, pull my other chain. So now I've inserted into that base, pull up my first loop for the double crochet, pull through 2, pull through 2. And there I've added an addition of 2 stitches around off of that turning chain to the side. You will add on either 2 or later on under the, for where the body increases to go under the armpit, you will increase between 4 and 9. And you just keep repeating that, pulling off a bottom loop from that previous stitch. Oops, I actually had gone into the one before. So you keep repeating, going into that bottom stitch of your row before and creating your double crochet off of that. And then I would keep going in to that. Okay. So I just needed to increase 2. So there's my last one. So now I'm back to just 2 of my increases. So I'm back to my pattern where I increased 2. On the next row, it says to increase 1. And that's super easy after you've covered all of that. You just chain 3, turn your work. So that's my first stitch. I'm going to read my pattern. Oh, I had my 2 that weren't a front post, back post. So let's go back further in. I can clearly see that one. So that's front post, back post, front post, back post. This would lighten front. Okay, I'm coming to the end of my row where I had previously added 2 stitches at the beginning. It's now the end of, from this row, but this row was that they were created on was the beginning. So they look like normal double crochets. So my last stitch was a back post in my pattern repeat. So I know this next one, following the pattern I've already created, is a front, and then the next one would be back. Okay. Now on this row, it said I want to add that 1 extra stitch onto the front, to the back side of the row, just like I did on the beginning of the row. And this, all you do, create 1 more double crochet. And there I've ended 1 more. So that is how the stitches you would use on the back panel. It is also the same stitches you use on the front panel. You just always work on one side of the garment. You make 2 of those panels because each side of the panel is reversible. There isn't a good side or a bad side of the fabric you create. Okay, so for the sleeve, I have gone ahead and changed my USF hook, 3.75 millimeters. I have my shortened version of the beginning foundation chain for a sleeve. Obviously, you need to make 2, one for your right arm, one for the left. And for row 1, it says to single crochet in the 4th chain from the hook again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to single crochet. And then it says to chain 1, skip 1 stitch and single crochet in the next. And then you repeat from the chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and chain in the or single crochet in the next chain. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. And you do that to the end of the row. Okay, come to the end of the row, and that is my beginning single crochet in 1 stitch, chaining and skipping over 1 stitch. So it creates a little pocket hole. So the pattern is actually a chain, single crochet, chain, single crochet, chain, single crochet. At the beginning, there's that 3 single crochets, or excuse me, at the beginning there are the 3 chains. That is like 1 for your base stitch, 1 for your turning chain, and 1 for the chain on the row you're working in. So those 3 stitches count as 1 stitch being a chain stitch in your pattern. And we'll get to what happens whenever it changes, but for now that's how it is. And the row ends with the single crochet. So to turn, I'm going to chain 1, just like the front post, back post double crochets where they alternate. This pattern also alternates. So I had, again, a single crochet ending my row. I just want 1 chain. I'm going to single crochet in my open space, which is the chain. There's a single crochet, I'm going to chain. Next, I'm going to skip that stitch and make my single crochet. So the pattern again is just a repeat of alternating stitches, reading the row below it to tell what you need to do on the current row. Reading your stitches is key. So there's my chain, single crochet below it. I'm going to skip it and single crochet in that open space in the previous row. This gets a little tricky whenever you don't have much to hold on to, but as you create the fabric, it gets a lot easier. It's also where this was the part where my gauge really changed. And also this stitch pattern tends to stretch. So as you block, really give, when you block your gauge swatch, really give it a good tug because the weight of the fabric really expands over a sleeve. All right, so I'm coming to the end. This was that chain 3 loop. So again, I'm going to chain 1, that's my single crochet, and single crochet in that turning chain. And that puts us back to the beginning where you would chain 1 for your turning chain, chain again for the chain to go over your first single crochet of the row, and single crochet in your next. And that would create the pattern at the beginning. So let's continue on with that. Okay, I'm coming to the end of the row. Have an open space, so I single crochet, chain to go over that single crochet in the previous row. Here's my turning chain of 3 chains. So I'm going to single crochet in that. All right. So for one of the first things you do, a couple rows in, actually quite a few rows in, you are going to, you'll repeat that single crochet chain for an additional X amount of rows, 10 to 20 times. and then it's going to have you increase by 3 stitches, and this is where it gets the increase to go around your shoulder sleeve cap. So I want to increase 3, and it tells you by doing that you need to start off with a chain 3. So that is your beginning additional 3 stitches. Then it says to follow one of the items below that applies. So looking in, I'm increasing by an odd stitch. My last stitch was a single crochet, so I want to see if the end of the previous row is a single crochet, then chain 1 more, and single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, I'm going to single crochet. So that created the 1 more turning chain I needed to make my single crochet, and then I begin my pattern again. So chain, I'm going to skip this, that's chain, single crochet in the third, and then I'm over my single crochet, the last one of the previous row. I'll chain to go over it, and then single crochet in that space. And now I'm back to the pattern. So I'll create that pattern to the end of the row. Okay, so I single crochet at the end of the row, that turning chain of chains. And in the pattern, it said to repeat the increase row by 3 stitches an additional X amount of times. So again, I'm going to chain 3. I'm going to follow which statement applies. So it is a single crochet, so I'm going to increase by 1, chain, single crochet in that second chain from the hook to have a single crochet begin the row and not split my yarn, chain 1, skip 1 chain, single crochet in, where am I at? Single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, which lines up with the single crochet ending of the row, single crochet. So we'll do that across. Okay, I'm coming to the end of the row. I got my chain to go over that single crochet. I'll single crochet in that space. Now this was where I increased 3, and it's a single crochet. I can't single crochet in my turning chain because it's just the one, it's not a stitch, it's that single crochet. So I'm going to keep the pattern of a chain that is over a single crochet and move on. This does create, as you'll see as we increase, a little opening tab. Don't worry about it. As you seam your garment, these will be in the seams, and I'll show you how to hide those in. It is a little wonky, it is a little bit different, takes a little getting used to, but that's what happens whenever we increase these odd numbers to get the proper dimensions of our sleeve. So there's my single crochet, my chain over my single crochet. My next row, I want to increase again. I'm going to go ahead and increase my 3. Now the end of my stitch of the row was a chain. So it said if end of the previous row is a chain, then chain 2 more. 1, 2, and single crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So what that did was that turning chain created the 1 turning chain at the end and the ones, so you had the 3rd stitch, the turning crochet chain, and then the 1 chain to go over the stitch below. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet. So that would be over that chain from the last stitch of the previous row. Single chain 1 to go over the single crochet, and then I'm back into my pattern repeat. So we'll go to the end of the row. Okay, so again, just like before, my row ends in a single crochet from the previous row. So this row needs to end in a chain. So I completed that row. Then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section to show you how to increase by 2 stitches. So you chain 2, that would increase your 2 stitches. Now, if the end of the previous row is a single chain, it wasn't, it was a chain. So I need to skip to the next bullet point. If end of row is a chain, then chain 1 more and single crochet in the second chain from the hook. You could, of course, figure out what stitch you needed to do based on the pattern. I just went ahead and told you what you needed to do and how many chains, because it does make it, as you're working the pattern, a little less mind-numbing to figure it all out. So there you can start seeing the pattern of the stitches being created. Again, it's just the alternation between single crochets and chains. It makes it easy to count rows because you can see the diagonals of your single crochets. So if you stack them up, you can start seeing the every other row, so you can count your rows by 2s. I've also counted the little tabs as you work. Sometimes those will show up. I started using stitch markers at the first row just so I could figure out, just keep reference and not have to which side was which, and just kept my place a little bit easier. And again, it's all what makes, for me, the process a little more enjoyable. Okay, I'm coming to the end of this row, and it is one that had the single crochet and then a turning chain for a chain space. So again, I'm going to chain and then single crochet in that turning chain loop. If you want, go ahead and put, when you make those 3 chains, put a stitch marker there. It helps you note that that is a turning chain to where you can single crochet in. You don't have to look and study it to see how many chains are there, if it's a single crochet or if there's more there. All right, so now I'm going to increase by 2 again. I had an end of a row of a single crochet. So looking at the instruction, if the end of the previous row is a single crochet, then chain 2 and single crochet the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that 3 chain is a stitch of my base chain, turning chain, chain over for my single crochet to be next, and I am chaining over my last stitch, that single crochet, and single crochet. So I could even put a stitch marker in that turning chain so that I know that that's a turning chain that I would want to work into on my next row. So let's keep on working, and you will increase rows, you will increase a lot of stitches for your underarm. You'll work a few straight rows for the sleeve, and then it'll come to a row that says you will want to decrease by 2 stitches. And as we're getting closer, I'm going to look. So I have a single crochet, a chain. So that would be my 2 stitches that I want to leave unworked. So I already have a single crochet and chain on this row. I'm going to work this one and chain so that it would be over this single crochet. So that would be my last stitch, and then I'm leaving 2 unworked. With it being a chain, I know for the next row, my last stitch was a chain. I need a single crochet in it, so it'd alternate. I'm going to chain 1 to get that turning chain, turn my work, and make a single crochet. Now I have that single crochet below, so I'm going to chain, skip 1 stitch, and single crochet. And that just gets me back again. You look at what's below it. If it's a single crochet, you want to chain. If it's a chain, you want a single crochet around it. So we'll do another decrease on the end of this row. Work the pattern. Okay, I'm coming to the end. I have my chain over this single crochet. The end of the row is, from the previous row, is a chain and a single crochet. So that's 3 chain and a single crochet. So I want to end my current row in that space, which is a chain on the previous row. I want a single crochet in it. I am to that point in my work, so I'll make my single crochet, turn my work. I know I need a turning chain. I need a chain to be over my single crochet for the pattern, and then I'm going to work right into that next open space for my single crochet, and I am back to working my pattern repeat of single crochet, chain, skip, single crochet, chain, skip, and there you have it. That is all the stitches you need for your sleeve. Okay, so you continue doing that and work some straight rows, and then you switch back to the front post, back post, double crochets with the hook G for your sleeve. Everything's very straightforward, no increases, no decreases. You're good to go. The next thing I want to cover is your buttonholes. Your pattern will say make buttonholes, and on that it is similar. You've created a width of straight single crochet chain patterns so far, and now I'll say to chain 2, skip 1 stitch of the previous row. I have it written to where you will end the previous row on a single crochet, so it gives it a nice clean straight line across like we had at the beginning, no tabs. You're going to skip 1 single crochet of the previous row, single crochet in the open chain space, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and chain, single crochet in that chain space. Now it's going to tell you to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is for your buttonhole. You skip 3 stitches for the coordinating chains that you did, so I'm skipping that, and single crochet in that. So that creates the buttonhole. Then it's going to tell you to work the pattern X amount of times. I did add a note because I got caught on it. It'll tell you to work 20 to 30 different stitches. When you count, be sure you don't count that ending single crochet from your buttonhole. That is part of the buttonhole repeat, not your counting chain stitches. So I would count 1, beginning with that chain space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I do that until I have the required number of stitches, and then I'd make another buttonhole of chain 3, skip over the 3 stitches that would require, again, use single crochet, and then you'd work to the end of the row. Once you have all of your required buttonholes made. Okay. Now, whenever, again, you would end on a single crochet on your band, and you want to work back, you would do your 2 chains. Again, this would be your turning chain, and then your chain space over your single crochet. You would work your pattern up to your buttonhole. Okay. So the chain goes over my single crochet of the previous row. I want to single crochet, chain, single crochet. That fills those 3 spots. Then the previous row I have a single crochet, so I want to chain, and then you're back to working your pattern until you get to your next buttonhole. Okay, I have a chain over my last single crochet, so I'm going to single crochet, chain, single crochet. That puts me to this single crochet, chain to go over it, and single crochet in my next space. And then in my row. And then I'm back to a normal row repeat of turning and single crochet, chain, single crochet evenly across. Okay, so the next little tricky bit of the pattern that I want to cover with you is seaming. And what I did was I did a zipper stitch or a slip stitch join. And it's very easy to do. I have a whole video that is referenced in the pattern just on this stitch. It's one of my favorites. It does take time, does take attention, but I think the effects are very well worth it. It is how I created this detail line between the 2 different stitches of joining it. But what I did was I'm just going to keep working with the same yarn already still in work. You would have a slip knot if you bound off. I start on one of the body panels and I insert my hook top down on one of the seam sides closest to the edge. And then I'm going to start here where I have a little tab. Actually, I'll start at the beginning. I'll start in the middle so you can see how I join these tabs. And I go top down. I did always use, put the sleeve second, so it would kind of lay on the bottom, and I thought it gave me a little bit cleaner look. And I just slip stitch those 2 together. So we'll go really small little bites, and I do 2 joins. So again, top down, insert my hook top down on my sleeve and slip stitch that together. Top down on the body. I've done 2, so I want to go over here. And you can see the turning chain, and I go just to the side of it and then go top down. The turning chain to me on the sleeve pattern looks kind of like a little ball, and so I work just on the side of that, and I make a slip stitch. Again, I'm back to my body panel. Insert top down. Here's my ball, so I go top down on that. And make a slip stitch. Back to the body, top down. I've done 2 on that tab, so I'm now onto the next. I found my ball on one little side of it, and a slip stitch. Uh-oh. Now you can see why this does take quite a bit more time. Okay. Take another top down on the body, do my second stitch over there. And make a slip stitch. So you can see that this does take quite a bit of time, but it really gives a nice little detailed stitch between the 2 panels. You can't tell where those tabs were. It just creates a nice line of stitches between those 2 panels. So there you have the Moondance cardigan. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you love it just as much as I do. And I look forward to sharing you more patterns with you upcoming. So be sure to click on that like and subscribe so you don't miss out on what's next from City Farmhouse Studio. Thanks. Bye.